Well, thanks for staying with us on the program. It's our time for our major discussion, and we're looking at some of the challenges within the market space. Now, going into the Yuletide season, we know we've been talking about how much inflation has hit Nigeria in the year 2024. But there's an important tool, or should I call it a skill, that might better your outcomes either as an entrepreneur or a consumer. We're looking at the topic market persuasion, navigating economic pressures and consumer choices. Well, joining us in the studio to further broaden the scope of discussion is Dr. George Essien. Good morning to you and welcome to the program.
Good morning, viewer. I'm excited to be here, excited to be in Abuja to share my thoughts on marketplace persuasion, navigating economic pressures and consumer choices. Thank you for having me.
Very quickly, it's a pleasure to have you, but let's talk about the place of persuasion. We'll come to the market, the consumer choices, the entrepreneurs and whatnot. But persuasion, in a sense, is one of those skills a lot of people only use within interpersonal relationships, maybe between a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. But we rarely see it as a tool people talk about a lot in a business relationship. How important is it that we bring persuasion into the place of business relationships as well?
I believe that life is a marketplace, a huge marketplace, and you're either buying or selling. And selling is a form of persuasion. You really can't get big profits or succeed in business if you don't know how to persuade. So persuasion is a very, very important part of business if you're going to succeed. You know, particularly in the times that we are in, when people have reason not to buy, not to do business with you. There's that need, that imperative to be more persuasive, to show them reasons why they should, literally buy from you. Persuasion is from the Latin word persuaso, and persuaso means through sweet talk. Actually, it's a combination of two words, per and suaso, and it means true sweet talk. So you have to find a way to convince your customers, your prospects, to do business with you. So persuasion is a very, very important skill for the entrepreneur, and it cuts across a broad spectrum of industries. You see persuasion in advertising, you see it in, you mentioned romance, you see it in parenting, you see it in leadership, you see persuasion in religion. It cuts across a broad. You see it in marketing, you see it in sales, you see it in economics. So persuasion is a very key skill that the entrepreneur needs to understand. For the consumer, negotiation, which is also a form of persuasion, is an important skill you need to have, because if you have very powerful persuaders out there, you need to know how to negotiate your way so you can get the best offers at the end of the day.
Now let's look at the place of market persuasion in a time when there's a lot of economic pressure. You've used the word navigating these pressures. How do we, with the pressures either we're facing, let's even begin with inflation, which has made prices skyrocket.
Yes.
How does an entrepreneur, knowing how hard he went through acquiring these products and is looking to sell them at this prices people are considering quite exorbitant now, how does he persuade in the place where the consumer is also battling with a purchasing power?
It's about a matter of value. When value is understood, price doesn't matter. When you really value a thing, price doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much. If, for example, you have someone who is sick and needs to get well as soon as possible, that is an urgent need. And then there's somebody who has a solution, has a product, has a service that can help you solve that problem. Price at that point will not matter. So the entrepreneur needs to learn how to communicate value effectively. So when people can perceive the value that you are giving, they are going to part with whatever amount of money is. And so that's what the entrepreneur in these times needs to understand. So without compromising on your quality, and so that you can be in profit, that product should be at a certain price. And it's harsh times, but again, you need to communicate value to the consumers and the customers so they know they need to part with that amount of money. People are still spending money for things that they consider valuable. Of course, they're going to prioritize at the end of the day, but people are still spending
on the
money.
scale of preference.
Yeah, on the scale of preference. But that means that you have to show them why your product or your service is important for them to part with money with.
Now let's also look at some of the statistics that have been made available owing to the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, that has been crying about the plights of manufacturers, particularly in the business chain. They're complaining about the amount of unsold that they have still in their warehouses, How do they navigate some of these economic pressures?
You see, the thing about manufacturers are looking for fantastic salespeople who can move products from the counter to the consumer. That's always going to be a challenge. I work with a number of companies, and anytime I go there, I ask them, what's your sales strategy? I want to have conversations with their sales management team. I want to look at how they are faring, because that's a major issue. And a lot of manufacturers and big companies want to focus more on advertising, using billboards, and so on. You could leverage other tools of persuasion. For example, the internet. Yes, we know that there's a lot of you have products stacked up somewhere, but you can leverage other things. You can reach out to more people, through the internet. People don't understand the impact of the internet. People don't know that like I was saying to somebody earlier today, that we have the macro, we have the macroeconomy, we have the microeconomy, and we have the personal economy. And sometimes you don't realize that people are taking advantage of their situation, and they're online selling products. People think that the marketplace is just about the woman selling stuff in the market, or about big companies doing stuff. There are people online with their phones, looking for products, searching for products to consume, looking for services, and they are also doing business. Also, people on the internet doing lots of businesses. So when these big companies can realize that beyond just advertising and doing those macro marketing strategies, they need to come down and leverage on the internet again, assemble a sales team, a marketing team that understands digital marketing, and really focus and try to customize their products to literally meet the needs of the people who are on the internet. That's one strategy I feel will work. And a lot of big league companies are doing that now. They are going on the internet. You have big companies going on the internet on social media, because they realize that they can persuade people in that space. And then there's also this need for people to assemble a sales army. People don't undermine the fact that by going door to door, you can close sales more. So if you have products stacked up, rather than waiting for your distributors and them complaining about, people are not coming to the market to get product, you can develop a strategy where you assemble a team of independent marketers, as it were, that can go into the streets, go into the places, the homes, knock on doors, and close sales.
Now, let's also factor in the.
So I'm giving strategies. Yes, they should repay me for that. Anyway.
Well, I'm sure the viewers are benefiting the most from it.
Yes.
There's also the challenge with the hike in the cost of transport. Whilst I agree with these strategies, a lot of these business owners, manufacturers as well, are challenged with being able to deal with the hike in the cost of running the business, and also be able to spend money to invest in these strategies vis-a-vis the cost of transportation, as it were. How do they embody this added cost in keeping business afloat and also exploring some of these challenges?
Like I already answered that question. I said, look, find a way.
It's on the way now. I want us to name it and be able
factor in the fact that you're going to spend more on getting things out there because of cost of transportation and a few other costs, and then communicate value. It's about value communication at the end of the day.
Is this true advertising?
Yes. Some people don't understand that a lot goes into advertising. A lot goes into developing a marketing communication. There's such a thing as marketing communication that people don't fully understand, and that's why some big companies pay consultants like us a lot of money to discuss marketing communication strategy, because it's in the messaging, it's in the angle, and it's the market is always very dynamic. So if you're able to communicate value, price won't matter.
Now, Dr. George,
do you get my point?
I get you.
Yes.
My concern now, especially for startups, particularly,
yes. Okay,
I think let's cut it down to startups.
Okay, fine.
Because the challenge here is we all understand the place of advertising, but we also come from the perspective where people say, do not wait till you have the entire capital you have in your head before you start. But the point you start, you now experience teething challenges in starting the business. The business is barely a year old or 2 years old. And you find out that you're not making as much income as you projected. And yet, when you speak to consultants like yourself, the advice is to invest more in being able to communicate this value. The challenge now for such startups is in accessing capital. We run to the banks, and the banks, as it were in Nigeria now, very few of them have the capital. Business owners or even startups are looking for. it becomes more like a cagey situation for some of these startups. We're now seeing even closing shop or even having to outrightly jump ship from Nigeria to another country where the rates are not as high.
So there are a lot of answers that I can give for that question for startups. First of all, if you are a startup and you're watching this, my encouragement to you is to create your customer avatar. There is a concept called customer avatar. You know what an avatar is? Does that make like who your ideal customers are? Usually, because we scatter our energies on trying to sell to everybody, we end up not making as much revenue. It's about the customer that you choose to focus on. So if you're a startup and you're watching this, I'd encourage you to sit down and articulate who really are my customers? Who do I want to focus on? And then you narrow all of your efforts. Some people call it targeting. Even your advertising, you're now targeting. For example, you can say, okay, I'm into fashion and I want to focus on selling to celebrities. And so if you come into my shop and you are not a celebrity, then I'm not doing business with
and
you.
This would also have the price in mind, because
yes,
celebrity prices are going to be exorbitant.
Fantastic, but you've narrowed down your targeting to, okay, you say, I want to focus on marketing to civil servants. I want to politicians. So when you design your customer avatar, you're most likely going to increase revenue. And you're most likely going to be able to be sure that, okay, at the end of the month, I'm going to get this. And by the time you've done it for a month, 2 months, 3 months, you can predict your income. When people close shops, when startups close shops, if you're a startup, you don't need to have a shop unless you really, really need to have a shop.
Now that's talking about the physical office space.
Yes, the physical office, yes. You don't really need to have, unless you really, really need to have a shop. Because right now the internet has taken over. You can do deliveries. So if the shop is going to be a distraction, close it up. Stay at home. Have a very solid system. I know someone who has a startup who runs a massive boutique, and she does have in her house. She has a store where she keeps all of those clothes. She goes to Dubai, and she doesn't have a display shop, but she's online. She's on Instagram. She's on your WhatsApp status. She's putting out stuff there, and people are making orders. And then she's using delivery guys to send things to them. So you see, that's a startup who understands what I just shared. Number one, create your customer avatar and then target them. So when you target your products and services to the right people, income is inevitable. You're going to make profits. And so that's my encouragement to startups, because you see, you can keep talking about the problems. Oh, we don't have power, we have to put fuel into generator, economic policies of the government. We can keep talking about it. And that's why I said there's such a thing as your personal economy. You have to take charge of that and say, you know what, let me become smart. And to take charge of your personal economy and be in profit, you need more knowledge. So how do I be in profit? I've shared one thing. Define your customers, focus on them, advertise them. They would, there's prospects. When you prospect, those are potential customers. There are customers who buy from you, one-off customers, and there are clients who keep buying from you. So your goal ultimately as an entrepreneur, even if you're a startup, is, look, yes, I'm reaching out to people, I'm building my prospecting funnel, but eventually I want to have clients. I want to retain customers, and that's where you succeed beyond what you can imagine.
Now you've also delved into my next question, and it was on customer retainership.
Beautiful.
In a place of one of the pressures of competition. Now, and whilst you're gaining grounds in being able to build your customer or clients base, there are other businesses that have been here before you who have larger client base. The challenge now is, with the competition at hand, how do you carve this niche of retaining the customers you want?
So there's a question people used to ask. Is it manufacturing the product before marketing, or marketing before manufacturing? By marketing, I mean marketing research is part of marketing. So people go into bringing out products and services without doing their research. And so when I say research, as a business person, you study the competition, you look at the market and find out what are they doing, what are they selling, how are they projecting, and then you think to yourself, how do I come into the market differently so that I can define my USP? The USP, your unique selling proposition, becomes the value you're bringing. So even when there's competition, you keep telling them that, okay, you can get this at a lower price, but we give it at a higher price. but we give you this added advantage. This is why we are different. This is what makes us unique. Okay, for example, we do dry cleaning services, but we bring the product to your home. Or we do a 1 month subscription package where you give us all your clothes and you pay us this amount of money, and we handle, it doesn't matter the amount of clothes you bring. So you do your research before you get, so you don't have problems with competition. When people complain about, oh, competition, that means you don't understand. They manufacture before they market, rather than do their market research before they go and get the products or service. Does it make any sense?
Yes, I get
you get the point. So competition should not be something that you should bother about. And even if you are in the market and there's competition, you sit down with the marketing. Even if you're a startup, you need to have a marketing team. Sit down with your marketing team and begin to articulate. So how do we strategize? How do we evolve? What can we do? Or what else can we do? Ideas should keep flowing. What else can we do? What else can we do? Keep asking questions. What do we want? How do we tweak this market? What other products do we need to bring in? There's something called the power of guarantees. So do we introduce a money back guarantee as a way to separate ourselves from the competition? Okay, so if you do business with us, you don't get value, we'll give you back your money, over a period of time. Or do we you have to keep thinking, do we introduce discounts? Do we add bonuses? There's something called bonuses. Okay, so we're bringing our product to the market. Yes, if you do this, you're going to get this extra. Not buy one get two free. Another product that is complementary. For example, you do a dry cleaning service. I'm using dry cleaning. I don't know why I'm using dry cleaning.
It's the most relatable one. I can relate to
okay.
it.
So you're doing a dry cleaning service, and then you pack it and you give them a calendar. Or
an extra hanger.
An extra hanger, yes, as an extra. So just so that in the market, so the customer perceives you as someone adding value to them. So again, persuasion is about value. How much value you're able to add in the market. It doesn't matter the competition, people will still go for you.
Now, there's also the angle of using persons who are more familiar with these business terms and the projections of the vision when you talk about your unique selling proposition,
yes,
the place of market research. It all falls under the concept of a business plan.
Yes,
a lot of people have these ideas, but in crafting that business plan, they're not so skilled in knowing that they need a USP or research. How do they now get the services of persons like yourself who are more familiar within this space and the context of this conversation?
I wrote a book recently. The book is titled From Ideas to Implementation. It's a fantastic book. Came out a few weeks ago. Most people have great ideas, but these ideas are not tested. So you need to convert your ideas into a goal. That's one. So a timeline. So time, I'm going to bring this thing and give myself a timeline. Then you need to convert your ideas into a plan. A plan is the idea written down clearly. A plan is well articulated. A plan answers questions that potential investors have. Because at the end of the day, you'll be talking about capital. Capital, I need capital, but you see capacity precedes capital. Concreteness precedes capital. How concrete your plan is determines to a large extent how much capital you have, because money flows into concepts and to concrete plans. So you convert your ideas into plan. That can take time. That may need you to work with consultants that you really can actually study. In the days of AI, there's a lot you can do with your Meta AI, with your Copilot, with your Perplexity. You can put materials together and using your vis-a-vis your product or service, and you'll be surprised at what can come out. And then so you need to have a plan. And beyond converting ideas to a plan, you also need to convert your ideas to a strategy. Most people don't understand the difference between a plan and a strategy. A strategy is a plan that is finding its way to penetrate the market. You're asking yourself the question, how do I penetrate this market? Yes, we know we have established dogs in the market. How do I get into the market? So that's a strategy. It's a military term. A plan just answers all the questions. A strategy is finding how to penetrate the market. Doesn't make any sense.
Yes,
it's how finding a way to maneuver all the obstacles that you most likely have. You need to convert your ideas into a proposal. A proposal is a plan written out with the intention to convince or persuade investors, or customers. So, people don't realize that you can get funding from either investors, and sometimes you can get funding from customers. How does that go? You go to the customer, you convince them, you communicate the value of your internet product, and they give you money ahead of time. We call it pre-order. They give money ahead of time without even seeing the product. Okay, so you need to be able to put together a proposal that you can give to an investor, maybe a venture capitalist. We don't have too many venture capitalists these days, or an angel financier, or a donor agency, or your board, and all of that. You need to be able to have a proposal. And then a few years ago, I won a business plan competition in Nigeria. We got 10 million naira. That was in 2013. And even though we had our proposals put out there, at a certain point, they said to us, you need to pitch. So your business plan, your idea needs to be converted into a pitch. A pitch is the story about your business. A pitch is why people should do business with you. And all of this is important. I say all of this to say that as an entrepreneur, knowledge is what increases your earning. If you're not learning, you're not going to earn. You can't keep looking at the economy. You have to keep learning how do you navigate in spite of the challenges. And by the way, it doesn't matter how difficult the situation is. There are people who are still, on the surface, still doing great, doing fairly okay. And there are people who have even gone beyond selling in their locality, and they're reaching out to other markets. The world has gone borderless, literally, with the internet. So you're doing business in Ghana, yet you're in Nigeria, you're supplying. So people are doing crazy things, and you want to keep learning for you to succeed. And that's why I like this topic. You have the ability to communicate, and if you have the ability to communicate, you can navigate any economic pressures, and you can also win.
Now, talking about the part of pitching, it also just brings us back to persuasion again.
Yes.
So it's important that in your pitching, you have to have in mind that it has to be persuasive enough to convince these customers to either pre-order or even people to partner with your business idea by supporting you with the capital you need to drive. So is this persuasion needed in the pitching something anyone can do, or do they need a professional to help them?
Yes, you need a professional to help you. You need a professional to help you. Pitching there's a sequence, there's a structure for a pitch, and all of this can be gotten on the internet, though with a guide of a speech or public speaking coach or someone who understands business, you can be guided through. Of course, in your pitch, you need to explain the problem, because every product is a solution, or every service is a solution to a problem. What problem are you solving? This is important. Money is a reward for solving problems, but not just that. Money is a reward for solving complicated problems. The more complicated the problem you are able to solve, the more money you are going to make. The more frequently you can solve a problem, the more frequently you're going to earn money. The people whose problem that you solve determine to a large extent how much money you're going to earn. So you have to define what problem is available and tell a story, making sure that the investors realize, because a pitch is to the investors, that this problem is a pressing need. You want to also learn how to share statistics, because for some people, beyond just telling us about the problem, that's appealing to their emotions. You also want to be very logical. Give us facts, give us figures that you've done your research. That's part of the pitch, statistics. The next thing you also notice about a pitch is that you want to describe your solution. What solution? And how is your product able to solve that problem? So that's also part of your pitch. Another thing that you also want to introduce to your pitch is, what is your business model? What is your business revenue model? Are you a B2C, or B2C means business to customers? Are you a business directly going to customers, or is your business are you selling to government? You need to define your business model. One other thing that is also part of your pitch is your track record. Okay, so investors don't support starters. They don't support starters. So it doesn't matter how strong your pitch is, if they know that you are starting, you are an economic risk. You're an economic risk. So they want to see that you've made some progress. You have skin in the game. What have you done already? What have you started doing? How much money have you saved? Or how much money have you started the product? Have you tested the market already? So you also explain that. Your traction. And then the next thing you want to tell us about your team. Your team, who are the people behind, what competence or what credibility do you have? What was your team? And then before you now pitch and say, because of all of this, I want you to give me so and so amount of it. So what I just did now is just try to highlight if the structure of a pitch, the structure what should be in a pitch, and you should have shorter versions of it, so that if you're in a meeting where you have to do 2 minutes, you can say a few things in 2 minutes, you can say it in 5 minutes, you can say it in 10 minutes, you can say it in 20 minutes, and on and on and on. That investors crave for information. They want to get information. Nobody wants to part away with money. Venture capitalists, even if the person is an angel financier. Angel financiers are people who give you money without any expectation
more like
of ROI,
free will.
However, they will still need for you to communicate the value. You don't want to spend your money. Most of them are report to bigger organizations, so they need to give reports. And even when every big organization, whether it's a bank or whatever, they have funds they set aside for entrepreneurs and for NGOs and for social entrepreneurs. They have funds set aside. They call it, is it CSR? Corporate Social Responsibility. So they do that on a regular basis. So even when they want to part away with those monies, they still need to be sure that they are giving monies to people who can communicate and pitch their value. And so as a startup, and even if you're not a startup, you are in the middle, you need to understand how your plan needs to be solid, your proposal needs to be solid, and your pitch needs to be solid for you to win and for you to be able to communicate.
This almost answers my next question, okay, but from another angle, especially how to prepare themselves to access this funds was going to be the question. But now, peculiar to Nigeria, especially with the efforts of the current government, is the MSMEs clinic that we see the Renewed Hope agenda springing up in different states. Some entrepreneurs are beginning to access the funds from this SMEs clinics and intervention of the government, but it's also on the concern of how sustainable this practice would be.
From the government?
Yes, from the government, and on the part of the SMEs who are beneficiaries from these clinics, those who are not getting funds are acquiring one skill or the other. How important is it for them to also tap into these skill acquisition programs by government interventions and other business organizations?
My own advice to the government is, when you're doing something like that, you need to create an independent body that manages it. Because when you allow politics, because there's a temptation for, there's this tendency rather for politics to creep in, that affects the process. It could be a laudable idea, but when politics comes in, it affects the whole process. So do something a little bit independent, so that you have a panel, you have a committee that monitors these entrepreneurs, and don't just give out money, because you see, there's something called overcapitalization, there's something called capitalization, and there's something called undercapitalization. So an entrepreneur can be overcapitalized. When we received money a few years ago, they said from 18 to 45, you can receive between 1 to 10 million naira. And some people got 10 million naira. They've not seen 10 million naira.
And they're probably 18.
Yes, they were 18 and they received 10 million naira. They couldn't do anything. They ended up spending up, and then they got to maybe the last 1 million. Okay, what do I do? So you want to be very careful to not overcapitalize people. And then you also want to should be sure that you're capitalizing them properly and you're not undercapitalizing them. And people also, there's this thing about, just get a skill. Beyond getting a skill, you need to understand, beyond skill, you need to understand how to put together a plan, how to be resolute when you go through the process of business. So there's a lot that goes into business. And even with that, there's no guarantee. So my advice to the government is, be careful not to allow politics to creep in, so you can achieve the success that you want to achieve. And then for the startups, when you access funding, the money comes with a spirit, like they say. you want to be very careful to sit down, work with your plan, stick with your plan, and make sure that you always have funds set aside. So if, take for example, your plan is to put a project out for 2 million naira, you can work with 3 million naira. And if you're able to get 3 million naira as funding, keep 1 million naira aside, work with 2 million naira, because you're most likely going to make some few mistakes. Then you can eventually go back and get 1 million naira. But one of the most important skills that the entrepreneur, particularly the startup, needs to have, beyond just knowing that technical skill, is the ability to market. You must be a shameless marketer. Nobody's going to pay your bills. You want to be a shameless marketer. Go out there, market. So learning how to sell and learning how to, that's the most important skill any entrepreneur. And I'm saying entrepreneurs because they are literally the lifeblood of society. The small businesses is what keep this economy going. That informal sector. When we say the economy of Nigeria, those are the people that keep the economy going. So master selling. Then if you want to grow, if you want to grow and become sustainable, start building systems. So it starts with skill, then you talk about selling. Of course, get your technical skill, then you learn how to sell that skill or that product or service. Then number three, you want to start building systems, basic system. Even if you're a company of two, you start, because that's how you grow. So that you can, because you give a system to your team. And when you have a system, when your team has a system, they can replicate the results. So system help us replicate results. And that's why big companies are able to stay afloat and build what they're doing, build systems over a period of time. And then after system, the last thing is you scale. Once you're able to systemize your processes, your sales processes, your accounting processes, your recruiting processes, your employment processes, all those basic things, then you can now begin to scale. You can have, okay, we can have outlets here and there. For example, I run a public speaking school. We have locations here now in Abuja. We're launching in a few days in Abuja. We have in Uyo and we have in Port Harcourt. And I'm able to achieve this because we're able to not just sell and get customers or students to join our academy, but we are able to build a system that we can give to people, and that way we can have our products and services or businesses around Nigeria.
Which are replicatable.
So it's skill, sell, system, scale.
Well, if you're just joining us as we're approaching the half-hour mark, whilst we're having the conversation about marketplace persuasion, navigating economic pressures and consumer choices. A communication and persuasion expert is with us in the studio, Dr. George Essien, who has harped on the need for the informal sector of any nation to be up and working, which he considers the lifeblood of that nation's economy. Here in Nigeria, he has talked about the opportunities that are bound for entrepreneurs despite the current reality we face. And so that we have an encompassing conversation, we're going to go beyond the entrepreneurs and also look at the informal sector in terms of the artisans, or those who we call the persons on the streets that go through the hustle and bustle to make ends meet. I believe they too need a place of marketplace persuasion to be able to put themselves as the choice artisans to be patronized, either be it the plumber, either be it the barber who cuts the hair. I know we've used dry cleaner in the first instance.
Yes.
Let's examine some of these other persons who might not be entrepreneurs outrightly or own a space where they do business, but their business is the skills and services they offer. How do they also embody this marketplace persuasion to be able to overcome the pressures they face in their workspace?
So first of all, I believe that artisans should grow. You don't want to stay in one spot for too long. So if you're listening to this, think about growing. And it's important, so important. So you don't remain there. But just to encourage you, one of the things you're already doing, but do it more, is understand the power of referrals. Referrals is everything. Referrals. So when you deliver a good job to somebody, ask for referrals. It's a rule in marketing, in sales. Say always ask for referrals. If somebody experiences your services or experiences the service and gets value from you, so did you enjoy my service? Did you enjoy my product? Can you give me referrals? If a person says a no to you for whatever reason, still ask for a referral. Okay, madam, you are not interested in this product, but do you know someone who may need this my service or product? So the power of referrals is one of the things I encourage you to do more as an artisan. Be more deliberate and intentional about referrals, because that way you can have a lot of people doing business with you. You're already doing that, but do it more. Be more conscious. You've been working with that person for a long time as a plumber, and you've done that for a while, and yet you've never asked the person to recommend you or something. Make that effort. You'll be surprised. A lot of your clients, because when you get to that place where someone becomes your client, a client is someone who has a relationship with you and has been doing business with you regularly. They want you to do well, and very often they will give you referrals. So take advantage of those referrals. That's what you do. Business is about relationships, so you take advantage of relationships. So you do two things in relationships. You explore relationships. Number two, you exploit relationship in a positive sense. By that, you maximize any relationship you have. By meeting you, who do you know that I can meet? Because somebody has the resources the connect that you're looking for. You're 4 persons away. Sociology say you're 4 persons away from anybody you want to meet in the world. So you need to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows the person you're looking for. But if you don't deliberately connect and network and ask for referrals, you're not going to meet other persons that can, help you succeed. So I don't know if that answers.
It does answer it. And I know we always look at it from the angle of what they can do and then the climb they find themselves in. Now, on the part of the government, again, you talked about the need for them not to politicize any solution. The current administration has the Skill Up Artisan program, SUPA, which they're doing. But the challenge with that is in the construction industry we find ourselves here in Nigeria, the place of growth. We only see that the site engineers, the heads, are usually expatriates.
Okay.
It's only those who I call floor managers that are more of the artisans we find here in the country. Do you think as a government policy moving forward, we need to be able to change the dynamics on how that works and have more artisans who probably have been contractors with projects over the time, given the opportunity to assume even higher roles going forward?
So my own thoughts are that the artisan is not a leader. See, the artisan, how do I put it? At the lower rung of any society, emphasis is more on what you can do with your hands. We discuss the artisans. How technically good are you? But if you're going to be given more responsibilities, emphasis will be more focused on what you can do with your head, with your mouth. So the artisan, there's an imperative for the artisan to realize that you can't stay there. If you're going to assume position of authority and be relevant, the government will not create policies and say,
educate you.
No, that the government will not say you're skilled in this, therefore be here. The government will look beyond your skill. We want to see, do you have the leadership qualities? Do you have the managerial qualities?
Qualifications as well.
Qualifications. Do you have the communication? Can you communicate, before they appoint? So that's why I said when we talk about the artisan, giving more, they should look to grow, so they can assume those positions. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does answer it. So now let's leave this side of the quadrant and now come to the consumer.
Okay.
Whilst all this prepping in terms of success on the part of the entrepreneurs, the artisans is going on, at some point, those persons are also still consumers of other products and services. Now they're faced with the scale of preference on the one hand and also the purchasing power parity. In the current situation we find ourselves in, do they also need to arm themselves with persuasions to get better bargains, or how do they surmount these challenges?
First of all, they need to understand the power of budgeting.
Budgeting?
Yes, first, the consumers, budget, and stick to your budget. We don't always stick to our budget. So we don't always stick to our
practice, sorry, we borrowed from leadership. You find out that there's always a supplementary budget.
Yes,
even after the budget for the year has been made.
There's a law called Parkinson's Law. This economist put it together. He said that income rises to meet expenses, or rather expenses rises to meet income. So what that means that if you have 1,000 naira, you would notice that every problem that you've not even thought about will begin to come around for you to spend that money. You have 50,000 naira somewhere, you received a check of 1 million naira. One uncle that's forgotten you will now immediately call you and wants to get money. So if you're not careful, Parkinson's law would affect you. Start spending, based on the problems. They were there before you had that money, but now it now seems as though you need to give that money out. So to overcome Parkinson's law, you need to learn how to budget. Stick with your budget. I'm not going to go beyond this. Set a standard for your living and don't go beyond that. So budgeting is an important way to navigate these economic pressures. Have a standard for your life and say, let's not go beyond. Even if you have a financial jolt, stick with your budget, stick with that lifestyle, that standard of living. And then
more like cutting your coat according to the material.
Yes, then as a consumer, so for example, you used to earn 500,000 and things are tough, and then all of a sudden but you've been able to maintain a lifestyle around 500,000, and all of a sudden your income increases to 1 million naira. There's this temptation to increase, to live better. So as a smart person, you want to stick there, maybe increase it to 600,000 naira standard of living. Then the 400,000 naira, you think of how you invest. You become financially, okay, how do I invest, or how do I save or keep for something better? So it's important that to navigate these economic trying times, you are very conscious of your budget. And then for us as a consumers, you need to think in terms of, you need to negotiate. Learn how to negotiate, because the persuader is trying to get you to do stuff, you negotiate your way. one way to do that is to look up for websites where you can get better deals and prices, discount prices. Go to places and marketplaces where you can get discount prices. That's another way to navigate this economic, make right choices. Then buy in bulk. You know, at the end of the day, we know it's cheaper to buy in bulk, right? Isn't it? Yes, bulk buying. So if you can, when you have money, just buy in bulk. I have somebody who I'm meeting shortly. She buys palm oil at the beginning of the year when the prices dips, and then we're approaching the end of the year. She buys it maybe for 6,000. Let's say 6,500. Just giving a figure, and then the price can go as high as 23,000 naira as we approach the end of the year. And she has them stored in her store. She's not really doing business deliberately. She just begins to sell off and make crazy profit. At the beginning of the year again, she does it again. So buying in bulk will save you a whole lot. So that's what you can do in these trying times, and become financially intelligent. To be financially intelligent means you want to find out what opportunities are available for you to start. You want to increase your assets. You know, what people don't know is that they have one income stream. Maybe it's their salary, or maybe it's their business. That's one income stream. If you want to survive these trying times, you want to increase your income streams. And one of the ways is to start stacking up assets. Assets is anything that you have, or any product, anything that you have that can bring money to you. So, for example, if you need to go and get a certification, just so you can have another asset, you can do, there's this thing people do, you know,
work remotely,
remote jobs, yes, to add to your income. That's you increasing. So you got maybe data analytics skill, just so you can add that while you're still doing your workplace business and so on. So you need to do that. You keep stacking up assets. You can buy a machine, keep it aside, and then rent it out. So what we need to do in this time is to stack up assets, because the assets will bring in flow and you can survive the times. That's what rich people do. They stack up, they increase their assets, because if you don't do that, you keep having liabilities. You keep having, most people don't even stack up assets. What they do is that they keep stacking up liabilities. You know, when you see how financially illiterate a person is, a person receives 5 million naira, the first thing he's thinking is about how to get a car, you know, and a very good car that will be at 4 million naira. It's a second hand, or a Nigerian used, or a Belgium used vehicle, you know, because most brand new cars are very expensive now. So you go, and then with 5 billion naira, the entrepreneur doesn't think of buying a vehicle unless the vehicle for him is an asset that can generate him money. So that's how it
maybe
works.
he wants to use it for Uber services.
Yes, and all of that, you know. So that's
now, I also listened to you very keenly, especially when you talked about the temptation many persons face when they have an increased income to jettison a lifestyle that was much more affordable, to look for a more luxurious one. In Nigeria now, while some persons in the civil service are still earning the old 30,000 naira minimum wage, some civil servants are already on the 70,000 naira minimum wage. The challenge most times is people talk about how much dreams and goals they have vis-a-vis their incomes. I plan to settle down, I plan to own a property, or even buy a car, like you said. But on the income I'm currently earning, it's not so much of the reality I see coming. You've talked about the need for extra incomes, but the challenge with this, especially in the Nigerian context, is that minimum wage versus a luxurious dream or ambition. Are there ways people can factor in their situation and plan on the short or long term?
I know that civil servants are permitted to do agriculture, right?
Yes, they are.
So, and there's a lot of opportunities in agriculture. Lots you can do in agriculture. You don't even have to be actively involved in agriculture to make money from agriculture as a civil servant. So if you think, okay, my minimum wage, you know, so whatever month you're earning 100,000 naira, or I don't know how much, let's just say 100,000 naira, and then all of a sudden you now have 150,000, or you're earning 150,000, you have 50,000 naira difference. You can save it up and then invest in agriculture as a civil servant and make extra income without necessarily being fraudulent and so on. So I think that there's always a way around these things for you as a civil servant. You're earning, it was 30,000 naira before.
Yes. Now
it is 70,000 naira. You survived on 30,000 naira. And you've been managing, and they have not even implemented the 70,000 naira things. So when you have the 70,000 naira, there'll be a temptation for you to increase your lifestyle, to spend more, or do more. So be careful. You can increase it to spending at 40,000 and work with the difference. That's being smart. At the end of the day, it really works. It works for you. It works that way.
Now, we've talked about the economic pressures, especially given our topic of the day. One pressure we don't often speak about but exists and influences most of our lifestyle choices is societal pressure. At this point in time, when the cost of living crisis is even higher than it has been all through recent history, there's still an increased societal pressure.
Yes.
How do persons, be you an entrepreneur, a consumer, or even an artisan, in dealing with this pressure, still have the sense to be moderate?
At the end of the day, it's about personal leadership. It's leadership, personal leadership. Like, why would you allow pressure to get you to do things live abroad? My father used to say, of blessed memory, Professor Godwin Essien would say, borrowed glory. You don't want to impress anybody. You live your life. The most successful persons in the world are not flamboyant. They are very conservative in their approach to things. So my encouragement is, look, society will be society. The pressures will always be there. There's nothing really you can do about the need for you to impress, the need for you to represent. Some young person wants to do a wedding, you want to do a lavish wedding. At the end of the day, you're in debt, and then you can't even feed your family after your wedding, or vendors are coming to disturb you. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I remember I was getting married, there was no train. Must you have a train and pay for all of them? You cut all of those things down because you can use the difference and do something. Either invest. If you don't want to start a business, you can invest in somebody who has started a business and make some money. So society will be society, and there's really nothing you can do about it. You want to just take personal leadership, craft and shape your life, and make sure that you turn out to be what you want to be. John Moran would say that you don't have an economic problem. I know this is a motivational speaker speaking again and all that. I know sometimes these things but really, people are still doing well. I'm in the knowledge industry, and I don't get affected by the economy of Nigeria. It's there. I'm aware of it. I go to the market too, but I focus on the solution. So the reality is that we have a situation. So how do I survive? How do I pay my bills? I keep thinking solution. I've taken personal responsibility of my life. I need to communicate value. And if I'm not able to sell to the Nigerian market because they don't want to pay, can I sell? Can I go? Can I do remote jobs? Can I sell? Can I go borderless? You just need to keep creatively thinking to survive. So you don't really have to keep talking, the economy. You keep crying. While we pray the government does what it needs to do. Focus on taking personal responsibility of your finances, and I think it's very, very important that this is emphasized. That's my thoughts.
Just in closing now, I know you've talked about the knowledge economy, but in the knowledge economy now, one thing that is seemingly common, but not so common as when we talk about common knowledge, is financial intelligence.
Yes.
You're coming from an informed perspective, where if you get 5 million, you don't think about buying a car first for 4 million naira because you'd have to fuel it, you have to service it, you're probably still living in a rented apartment. But this level of financial intelligence, especially with a generation that has the internet as their first tutor, they are more focused on the flamboyant lifestyle, the things people see and praise. How do caregivers, or even parents, or the place of family and society embed some of this morals in them?
That's a question I may not have an answer for. But just to tell you, there's a lot of money being made in the internet space. I even hear that recently the government was thinking of how to tax this guy.
Yes. Content creators.
Yes, these people, those in the internet space make a lot of money. And you cannot imagine the kind of money they make, sir. They make a lot of money. They make a lot for just putting our content out there. So, and because of that, there's this temptation for them to be very flamboyant. The challenge, however, is that there's always a season for a certain set of persons, and then there's a season for. So if you're not careful, you're no more in vogue. And I'm talking about the content space now.
Yes.
Somebody else is now the important person they're giving money and attention to, and the internet is driven by attention, and traffic, and that means that your income will drop. And if your income drop, that lifestyle that you have started, eventually you're not able to sustain it. So it's smart for you to be financially you cannot make any kind of money you're making on the internet. And somebody was saying that you see young people make so much money. I mean, the ones that make money, legit money, make so much money on the internet. When I heard recently that Emanuela and Mark Angel,
on their YouTube streams,
they're doing close to $300,000. Was it monthly? $300,000 monthly. Do you know there are some people that will never earn $300,000 in their entire lifetime, put all their income together? And if you have that opportunity to make that kind of money, you should never be broke again. You should be able to do more for the society, sustain your family and so on. So yes,
make more informed financial investments.
Yes, informed financial investments, so that you can look back and say, I have this and that. And so my encouragement to anyone who is into content on the internet, be smart. It won't always be like that. Be smart and you will succeed.
Well, Dr. George Essien, I must thank you for your time on the program. I know it's promising to be a very
busy
week for you.
Busy week for me, yes.
And we must allow you head out and attend to other events. We appreciate you.
God bless you.